Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Beat Lavezzoli on discovering the Grateful Dead.
I noticed something on your website. You mentioned the New Orleans Radiators, which is a running joke with everyone I know that are my favorite band. I always mention them, and people are like, "Really, dude, you're going to bring them up again?"
Ed Volker is a wonderful man. My Grateful Dead tribute band. Well, it's not my band, but the Grateful Dead tribute band in South Florida that I began in 1990. Crazy Fingers, and we still play. I play with them when I'm in town. When I'm not in town, we have other drummers that play, and we have just we pick up whoever we can find off the street. But we would play with the Radiators a lot when they were still a touring band. They don't tour anymore the way they used to. And they would come to Florida, and we would play shows with the Radiators a lot. And Ed Volker and I got to know each other pretty well, and we would exchange books and talk about uh, spirituality, talk about philosophy, get into like kind of esoteric stuff, and then we would talk about Ray Charles and Dr. John. So really, I had a lot of great times with Ed. Ed was the one that I got to know the most. Um, really love the guy.
Well, one of my best memories of Ed is Snug Harbor. We went in to see Astral Project
Yeah,
one year at Jazz Fest, and he was sitting at the bar. And I was like, Ed, what's up? He's like, Hogan, what's going on? And so I go over, I sit down, and we talked for like an hour and a half about poetry, and I missed the whole first Astral Project set, but totally worth it.
yeah.
But that's where I was going. One year for Monkey Ball, Radiators used to do Monkey Ball with the South Florida crew people. You guys, I believe, played at the hotel we were staying at in the afternoon.
Could be.
Yes. Well, that's where I wanted to start was Crazy Fingers. You start off in basically a Grateful Dead cover band. Can you go a little bit through that and then how you made the step into the actual Grateful Dead world?
Well, I started out as a deadhead. Going back to sixth grade, seventh grade. You know, in the early '80s, 19. I'm 54, so this is going back to like about 11 years old, maybe going on 12, 1980, 81. Uh, First of all, music is just the best thing in the world, isn't it? Don't we love music? you know, so the whole basis of this for me and for a lot of people, but for me is that from the time I was as young as I can remember, I just fell in love with music. Music just became my thing from the time that I could remember talking, speaking, doing anything. Music was what I fell in love with. And so I grew up studying music, listening and learning about all the great bands, all the great artists that you do when you're coming up and you're learning about who's who, and you know, oh yeah, Beatles, Bob Dylan, Stone, and So by the time I got to learn about the Grateful Dead, reading about them in Rolling Stone magazine and books, and hearing all about the legendary Grateful Dead and the San Francisco psychedelic scene. Of course, this was before I ever did any drugs, but it's just fascinated with the 60s culture and fascinated with the music. So I got to know about the Grateful Dead just from reading about them in the literature and then hearing the music. I went and picked up an album, American Beauty, which as we know is very kind of a folk acoustic type of
Mhm.
album.
It's a lot different than Live Dead, huh?
Yeah, I heard American Beauty. I'm like, well, this is great, but it kind of sounds like the Birds to me, or it doesn't sound like heavy psychedelic jams. Where is all that? But it's actually great that I started with American Beauty and heard songs. Songwriting. Box of Rain, Ripple, Broke Down Palace, Truckin'. Just and then I said, well, this is great, but what about that other side? So I found, well, I read about the Live Dead album, and this is a great, famous live album. I went and got it, took it home and put on the Dark Star. And oh, okay, now this is what people are talking about as far as like the whole jam part of it, you know. And I'm like, well, there has to be more of this. So then I went and got Anthem of the Sun with the cryptical and the new potato and the alligator caution. I'm like, okay, this is this is the stuff, you know. But I just fell in love with them because then I went, well, what about that getting back to the songwriting side? So I went and got Working Man's Dead. You know, it's like, well, God, what an incredible combination of instrumental, you know, spontaneous, unrestricted exploration, and then incredibly, you know, crystalline songwriting. You know, Robert Hunter got just so, you know, what about those two worlds? Like this is amazing. Nobody else does that in music. Nobody else quite ever did that. You know, the Beatles didn't do that. They, you know, they didn't jam the way the Dead jammed. You know, there were other bands that jammed that didn't have the writing. So the Grateful Dead really stand to me as the perfect balance between great songwriting and great spontaneous, you know, free form group improvisation. And there's a difference to me between jamming and improvising. You know, jamming is where you kind of, you know, I mean, everybody has different definitions for these words, but for me, jamming means that you kind of lock into a riff or a theme and you just kind of stretch that out and go with it. Whoever's the lead player, the lead guitar, you know, and the rhythm section just kind of grooves and you're jamming. Improvising is what the Grateful Dead would do because, you know, and that struck me right away when I heard Live Dead and Dark Star. Well, listen to Garcia, but listen to the counter melodies that Phil Lesh is playing on the bass with that. Listen to what Bob Weir is doing, you know, with the chords, the rhythm, you know, just all the improv, all the interaction and the drumming, you know, just they're all creating something together as one group mind. You know, that's really improvising to me. That really comes from jazz.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.